Hi, everybody. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi for joining us for our regular live show, 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern, where we take your questions about U.S. immigration law. I'm a U.S. immigration attorney, California barred, and located out of Los Angeles, California. But we help couples and talented individuals and investors and business people from across the country. Almost everything we do, we mail the government stuff, upload stuff, call them, that kind of thing. So we take cases from everywhere in the world, frankly. And what I like to do is every Tuesday for the last 5 years now, coming and having a short conversation and taking questions about U.S. immigration you may have. It's a complicated process. A lot of people are worried. And there is a lot to worry about. And our office again focuses on family cases, marriage, green cards in the U.S., consular processing through the embassy, citizenship, as well as those starting small businesses, E2, L1 visas, and those with extraordinary ability, talent, NIWs, EB1A, who are getting green cards. So if you have questions in this area, please let me know. We don't handle asylum cases. We don't handle cases where people are in immigration court being deported, all that kind of stuff. Katie Snyder, good to see you. And Patel Rami, regular as well, good to see you. So if you have some questions that we could answer, let me know. We'll jump into it and we'll talk U.S. immigration. So we're live on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So we always get a full flow of questions popping up, and I'm sure today won't be any different as we're tuning in today. There's a lot of scary stuff happening, a lot of rumors, a lot of real stuff. I don't even know where to begin, but if you have specific questions, let me know. Talk Purple asks, is it advisable to submit a marriage petition paperwork form I-130 and I-485 after receiving a favorable recommendation from DOS for J-1 waiver? If so, do I need an attorney to begin the process, or can I probably say do it your own? So typically, once the Department of State approves the waiver, you still need USCIS to approve the J-1 waiver, the home residence requirement waiver. This is if you came on a J-1 visa, and part of the requirements were that you go back to your home country to share the information you got on this culture exchange visa. And so with that one, it takes, but yeah, it's told me that. But if you got the waiver approved, I haven't reviewed your case, so it's individual legal guidance that I can't give you that. But generally, we will file adjustment of status if Department of State has done it and you have a good case. There's not a particular worry that USCIS will come back and deny it or something like that. If you want to be really safe, wait for USCIS. Usually isn't much longer for them to approve it. Do you need an attorney? Well, that's up to you if you decide to hire an attorney or not. That's a personal decision. It's not 100% mandatory, but that's my job. That's this kind of thing I do. But congrats on getting the waiver approved, and congrats on getting married and starting the process. B asks, why are other immigration firms being run by non-lawyers? As a former prosecutor, I'm baffled. It's illegal for them to be non-lawyers owning them and running them. There are Utah and I think Arizona have some bar association, state bars that are starting to allow that. There are a couple of them. There's one or two firms that advertise a lot, take a lot of cases. It seems like non-lawyers are running them. I don't know why the federal government, state governments haven't cracked down on that. But I don't have any control over that. But generally, for those who don't know, generally throughout history, law firms could only be owned by lawyers. Non-lawyers can't own law firms. They do that for certain consumer protections. But some states are starting to open that up, and some people illegally do it and are getting away with it. Son says, how long does it take for the I-751 in Maryland? Thank you. I can't say for any particular field office, but anywhere from 6 months to 3 years as an average for the I-751 removal of conditions. You're welcome, Talk Purple. Prophet Matthias says, if my wife doesn't sign for 10 years green card, you got to have more specific questions. I'm not sure exactly what you're saying, but if you're saying that potentially your wife is not going to sign the I-751, well, you need to do a waiver, but for that waiver, it gets tricky. So, Prophet, I got a lot of videos on the I-751 removal conditions when your partner, your spouse is not being cooperative. Watch those videos and schedule a private consultation. BS says, but there's so many of them literally giving legal advice without non-binding disclaimers. So there's a lot of paralegals, notarios who do that. They're not operating law firms. They claim they're just doing forms. That's been a big problem in immigration law is people that aren't lawyers, they watch some stuff on YouTube and then they just start giving advice, legal advice, and none of the state bars are enforcing laws against them. They will hit a lawyer for misspeaking once, but they won't do anything against people that are just abusing the law. But I don't have any control over that. That's outside my pay grade. PS says, please, can you travel with a plane if you have an asylum pending? Asking for a sister. I mean, historically, yes. Under the Trump administration, if you don't have valid status, I do not recommend getting on a plane or dealing with the airport or interactions with the government. If you don't have valid status at this time, having an asylum case pending is not valid status. You're welcome, Matthias. BS says, thanks. You're welcome. Ellie asks, can he travel with an I-551 stamp, that's a green card stamp, while waiting your removal of conditions, lost expired green card? So you need to have, yeah, you could travel. The whole point of the I-551 stamp is to show that you have a green card. So as long as this was properly obtained and it's not expired, you can travel with that. Mahmoud says, hey, I just got approved for my I-130. You know how long it will take to I-485 apply together? No, it's up to the government. It could be a day, it could be a month. It just really depends. Sanja says, is it safe for an asylum green card holder to travel abroad right now or maybe next year? Generally, it's anything I say is generalized, so it's worthless when it comes to individual legal guidance for you. So I can't provide that. I don't know your background, what you claimed in your asylum case, what country you're doing asylum from, and then first and foremost, you shouldn't use your home country passport because as an asylum holder, the person has asylum, you shouldn't be using the passport of the home country that you escaped. So then you have to get a refugee travel document, which could take a long time to get. And then you might need visas, and certain countries don't accept refugee travel documents. And then if you travel, is it safe or not? It really depends on your personal background. What have you done? What have you not done? What have you said? So it depends on your personal background, whether it's safe or not. And at the end of the day, whenever you leave, there's going to be a chance of having problems coming back. Now, if you have a green card, most likely it's okay. But without having reviewed all your history, I can't even begin to answer that anything that's viable for you. To speak generally is worthless when it's your individual. So, I could say like most people in the world are healthy and they die of old age. But there are people who die of AIDS, there's people who die of cancer. But generally, yeah, most people live to old age, but that's we all know there's a lot of exceptions to all that. Ragnarval says quickest way to become wanted in all 50 states. I don't know. PS Mode says thanks, you're welcome. Zahash says any updates and success rate for Dignity Act? No, I don't keep track of the acts. Pop says hello, officer. Very New York works to appreciate your work. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for reaching out from New York. 2016 says my mom has been out of the country more than 10 years. When I petitioned, does she still need a pardon? If he was subject to a 10-year bar, then no. But if she's subject to a permanent bar, maybe. Pinky says, how long does it take to get an interview in London? Which month starts interview in London? In London for green cards, they're interviewing cases that were documentally qualified, after like 3 months or something like that. Sanjay says it was from India, based on religion, no criminal history. So Sanjay, I can't give you individual legal guidance here. I don't know you individually, just a picture on the phone. So generally it's okay, but individual legal guidance is not something I can provide here. It's too risky for me to just say something and ruin your life because I just don't have enough information. Varga says, if I marry someone waiting on a residence and I'm American birth in the U.S., does that person qualify for citizenship? No, to qualify for citizenship, you must have been a green card holder for at least 3 to 5 years, depending on your situation. But if you are a citizen, you could potentially apply for their green card, but it depends on a lot of different factors. Down our guide, you have a guide called the Ultimate Marriage Green Card Guide, where it goes over the whole marriage green card fiancé visa process. The website is marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Again, that's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. Shiko asks, with the new law, EAD will be renewed after 6 months. How about if I received a 5-year EAD last year? The new law is for asylum people who have asylum that got work permits. Those are supposed to have to be renewed every 6 months. I don't typically handle asylum cases. I'm not really sure how it's all going to play out, but I'm sure the government will tell us. But it's a good point. I had a consult earlier today with a person in that situation, and I got to remember to note that. Actually, thanks for bringing that up. And I ask, hi, John. I'm an LPR green card holder and I applied for my spouse via consular processing. He is a Canadian citizen. Any investment type visa we can get to him in the U.S. sooner while his I-130 is pending? Is it E2 or E1? E2 or E1 may be possible, but if he already has a green card case pending, they may deny it, saying he has immigrant intent. Now, if he's Canadian, they might be more flexible, but that you could do all that investment, start that business, and it goes nowhere. Prop says, sir, my sister left at India because overage matters in F3 visa category. How can we apply for a green card ASAP? Well, if she's single, her parents, I'm guessing F3, her parents could apply for her. It's gonna take a lot of years. It's F2, probably F2B category, but that's what you got to do if you want to do a family-based case. Anna says, hi, John, I'm an LPR. All right, answer that question. Zol says, for I-751, is my overseas divorce certificate enough or must it be finalized in the United States? No, U.S. recognizes divorce where they happen, but if talk with the family law attorney to make sure like it was done properly. S2 says, is this safe for a 10-year green card holder to travel outside the U.S. to Trinidad and Tobago? Generally, yeah. Again, generally, yes, it's safe, but whether it's safe for you, I don't have enough information about your personal history to be able to tell you if it's safe or if it's problematic for you. Manya says, my daughter's in Ethiopia. They already take her passport. Do you think she's going to get approved? How would I know that? I don't know anything about her. BJ says, no more release in bond now. I was released in bond 3 months ago. Will this affect me? I don't know. So there's rumor coming out that's probably true that if you enter the U.S. without authorization, if they pick you up, they're not going to give you bond. They'll just hold on to you in jail for potentially years. It's a very scary, crazy situation, but one of the many crazy things that are happening. Prabhat says, how much time will it be taken for F2B category? For an Indian, it's going to take a while. So what you got to do is look at the visa bulletin. And you probably are familiar with the visa bulletin because you did an F3 case. So that's where you look at it. In the F2B category, right now in India, they're approving cases that were filed in October 2016. Now, that's at least, 9 years back. And this line doesn't move like normally every month move forward. So sometimes it doesn't move for 9 months. Sometimes it moves really fast. So it's like all over the place. But it's going to take many, many years, unfortunately. I'm sorry you have to age out. Make sure they did it correctly. Sometimes they did the calculation incorrectly. I got a video on YouTube about calculating the Child Status Protection Act to check to make sure or not if the calculation for the age was proper. Check out that video about the Child Status Protection Act. Put in YouTube, Child Status Protection Act, JQK law, watch it and do the analysis. Mina says, hello. So my husband is in Afghanistan, but says, embassy, where can I transfer it? I think you already came last week and we answered that. You can transfer anywhere you like. BJ says, new law, no more release in bond now. We answered the question. Does speeding ticket impact F400 application? Not necessarily, but you got to show you paid it. There's no warrant out for your arrest for not paying it. And if it's really crazy speeding, going 150 and stuff, they could hold that as bad moral character, which they usually don't, but typically one speeding ticket is not a problem. I mean, it says, does the MVC automatically transfer to Afghanistan to the country? Yeah, they automatically will probably put it in Pakistan. Name says, is there any risk on international students with valid I-20s but expired visas? Is there any risk? Not, I mean, based on that, no, but I don't know that particular student, what they're up to. So it depends on the particular student. Dragon says, what's the new processing time for I-751? The same as always, in 6 months to 3 years average. It's just very important y'all understand, like when you ask general questions, I said the example before is like, how long do human beings live? 70, 80 years, 90 years maybe. But we all know people who died when they were 10, 15, 20, God forbid, So when you guys say, is there any risks? It's like saying, well, there's always exceptions. So it's not a good question. You always have to analyze what your case is and what's going on with you in particular. Okay, don't forget, the best place to ask questions on our YouTube page. I get to those first. That's JQK Law or U.S. Immigration Talk. You get that. Kind of hard to ask on asylum, get citizenship. Can they go back to their homeland or not? Once you got citizenship, they're probably not going to check. But under Trump administration, you never know. So, it's probably after citizenship you can. Historically, yes, they don't care at that point. But everything is changing. So a lot of the stuff, there's no experience for what's happening right now. Pinky says, London family-based F3 filed 4 months document qualified. How long? Time interview, which month? Well, there's a website that the Department of State issued. If you do a Google search, DOSIV Tools is the term to look for. DOSIV Tools. And typically the first site is Immigrant Visa Scheduling Status Tool. And then there you put a family-sponsored preference. And then in London, as opposed to immediate relative, and it says in London, cases that were documentally qualified in April 2025 are getting interview appointment notices. Again, these are averages, but and then the interview is probably like 1 to 3 months after that. Vowel receipt taking how long? I don't know, 1 month, 4 months. It's sometimes 6 months. Unfortunately, getting receipts out of Vermont is taking forever. Okay, where's Instagram? You got a flash. Okay. Thank you for everyone joining. Feel free to shoot out your questions about U.S. immigration law. I think, okay. So again, like there's a lot of changes happening in the current administration, so it makes it really hard to really tell much in the future. Sometimes there were cases we'd file just to be in the system. So one day they might be helpful, but even with those, we're worried now. Like, is it worth filing some things and putting the government more attention to a particular person, and what'll happen from there? So it's a very complicated state of affairs, and it seems like the Supreme Court is giving in and giving the president anything he wants. And so then it's like things we never would have thought possible are becoming possible. Name is asked, how long does it take for a U.S. citizen mom to get her over 21 years unmarried child to get a green card? That particular situation is called the F1 category, first preference. If you go to the visa bulletin, they are currently approving cases in this scenario for the green card. That was submitted, the Form I-130 petition was sent to USCIS in July 2016. Now, if the child was born in Mexico or Philippines, it's later, but for everyone else, it's July 2016. So this timeline jumps. Sometimes it jumps 2 years forward, sometimes just 2 years back. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this is 100% like how long it's going to take, but it gives you a certain idea of how long, who's getting the green cards right now. It's a long time. Now, time does fly. So, that's you'd be surprised how quickly that time goes by. But nothing in the short term. It's going to take a while. Ellie asked, my friend's application says approved just yesterday. Does that mean she got a green card? Probably. I don't know. I haven't seen the notice. I don't know who your friend is. Pop says, question, is it safe to travel to partial ban country with advanced parole and marriage green card pending? I don't know your background, but I wouldn't recommend traveling. But I can't, these questions about something being safe, it's like calling a doctor and say, I have a cough. Do you think that cough is safe? And I'm like, I need to check your lungs. I can't really say. So don't, if you're worried, don't. If you're worried, don't. Duda says, is it dangerous to renew my driver's license as a permanent resident? I'm scared of ICE. I mean, if you're a green card holder, renewing your driver's license is just renewed. I mean, I don't know why you'd be scared of ICE if you're a green card holder and you just want to renew your driver's license. Talk Roll says, do you attend marriage interviews with your clients outside your state? I used to, but not anymore. Even right now, going to downtown LA, I got to go. I was supposed to go today, but they rescheduled. Tomorrow, I got to go. Even though I don't like to, but it's just time consuming. But I don't go to the interviews myself. If it's in the East Coast, my associate may go to certain places around Virginia on the East Coast. But if you're in Los Angeles, I go to the interviews in Chatsworth or downtown LA office only. That's about it. It takes just so much time to go to these interviews. Pop says, thanks. Interview done on May 1st. Still think nothing's outstanding. You should talk with the lawyer to see, review your case, see why that's happening, or maybe they can spot something. Dude Ed says, thank you for answering. You're welcome. For those just tuning in, I'm immigration lawyer John Kasravi. Please ask your questions about U.S. immigration law. And if you are interested in a marriage green card case, fiancé visa case, I have a detailed guide. Go to this website, marriageimmigrationlaw.com. It's a 50-plus page detailed guide about the process. It's marriageimmigrationlaw.com. And schedule a private consultation with us. Go to our website, jqqlaw.com/contact. Again, that's jqqlaw.com/contact. Fill in the information there so we get back to you about scheduling a private meeting. Romy asks, sir, how long does a green card take for granted asylum? It could take years. They're really backed up on those. It's not something I follow every day, but generally those are slowed down because the government's being skeptical and creating problems in those too. So I wouldn't be surprised if it takes 2 or 3 years. Yeah, that's the name of the game. Some things in immigration law have gone faster. For example, getting interviews for marriage to U.S. citizens gone super fast. But other things are just getting slower. I'm getting I-751s approved faster recently, removal of condition cases. These are where people got their green card based on marriage. But because their green card was new, instead of getting a 10-year green card, they got a 2-year green card. And so we have to follow this form called I-751. Typically, it takes 2 or 3 years to get that approved. Recently, we're getting approved or interviews after 6 months for a couple of cases, just like this week and last week. So I'm like, wonder what's going on there, speeding that part up, which wasn't a priority for the government before. So we'll see what happens. And they said citizenship's not going to be a priority. They're going to take longer, but so far timelines aren't that off. All right, everybody. For those just tuning in, to ask your question about U.S. immigration. Pop says, till today, nothing is outstanding. So sign of good news, please. It means they're just reviewing it. So it's not good or bad news. It just means they got the basics that they need. And if they need something more, they'll let you know. Now, I do want to take a quick second. We had a question about investing in the United States. There is a visa called the E2 Investor Visa, where if you're a foreign person, you invest and start a small business in the U.S., you buy a small business in the U.S., you could come here and run that business and keep renewing that visa definitely forever as long as it's running and operating And a lot of time while that's happening, people fall in love, get married, and just get a marriage-based green card. That's called the E2 investor visa. Now, one of the big things is you have to have a passport of a country that's part of the treaty for that. It's called a treaty visa because it's agreements the U.S. has, for example, with England, France, Japan, Taiwan, and stuff like that. I think Taiwan. I'm not sure. It says say Japan. So that's the E2 investor visa. It's really a great case that you could do those, help a lot of U.S. businesses. But if you have some money, you want to start a business in the U.S., it's an option to look into. First thing I would say is on our website, jqqlaw.com/E2, or just do YouTube JQLaw E2. I have a breakdown of all the rules for it. First and foremost, you got to check to see if your country is part of the treaty, and there's a link to it on my website. Check it out there. Munter, one of our regulars, Munter, good to see us. As Slam Boss, can someone who arrived to the U.S. as a refugee file an I-730 for a spouse who the refugee got married after arriving? Or is the I-130 under F2A the only option? So I don't handle refugee cases. Typically, immigration lawyers don't. Probably you would need to do, if you were, I don't know, I don't handle refugee cases. In the asylum context, you must have been married before the asylum was approved. But with refugees, I'm not sure. Sandai says, hi, sir. Myself, Sanji from Seattle. I got the I-797 on 2024. But when I enter U.S. on B2 visa, they enter me in 28 days. The visa is revoked. So I-797 just means a letter from the government. That doesn't give me any help for anything. Schedule a private consultation. I got to see what's going on with you during a private meeting. Elon says, any updates on the K1 visa and travel ban? No updates right now for Iranians in particular. The K1 visa is banned. You can't use it. I haven't heard what's going on with the lawsuits that are supposed to be happening, so still waiting to see. Pat Virgin says, can you submit a subset of a police report? You have to submit all of it. It depends on what the information is and what they're asking for and all that kind of stuff. So it's too generalized for me to be able to answer. H&B says, my attorney says I have an interview soon, but when I check online, I couldn't find anything. Well, ask the attorney to send evidence of a notice of it. Daniel says, part one, Canadian girlfriend. Okay, part one, Canadian girlfriend will be coming to visit in October. However, she has been in the U.S. for 97 days. If I ask her to marry me while she's here, will it be a problem if we marry on the 91st days? Marriage itself doesn't make a difference. And really the question is about what are you going to do, how the green card process is going to work out. Andre says U visa can help with an asylum case. No, they're unrelated cases. They're just their own things. Mutar says, appreciate it. Based on the instructions, it sounds like marriage had to have happened before being admitted U.S. as a refugee. Sounds like a no-go. Yeah, probably. Usually that's the case. Because until entering the United States, that status doesn't come in, so you got to do it beforehand. Gopi says, hi, John. Could you outline the adjudication process for the I-751? Like, what's NBC Service Center and Field Office? So the National Benefit Center and Service Centers are places that, like, behind the scenes are reviewing documents ahead of time. And sometimes they'll approve the I-751 removal conditions after they get it. And sometimes they'll be sent, if they're too busy, to local field offices or local offices in different cities, which they may review it and then approve it. Or the local office may request that you come to an interview and then they'll approve it there. Daniel says, concerned about misrep and Nexus startups, Nexus status. At Nexus, that kind of stuff is like not immigration related. But with regard to misrepresentation, I mean, getting married by itself is not a misrep. But just if you lied and were coming here to stay permanently or something like that, that's when it could be a problem. All right, we only got a few more minutes. If you have some last questions about U.S. immigration, please check it out. But a lot of these questions, I really strongly recommend scheduling a private consultation so we could definitely talk in person or by video at least. The website is just to contact us for a consultation is jqqlaw.com/contact. Again, that's jqqlaw.com/contact. Vino says, for evidence, can I submit hotel receipts that list 2 adults that have only one spouse's name on them? I don't do that because, like, who's the second adult, So it's not that helpful. Usually if there's flights or photos, if you got nothing, then do it. But I usually don't like listing things or sending things that don't have both names on it. All right, seems like I got a good group of people watching the show today, especially on YouTube. So thanks for watching. If you haven't visited our YouTube page, you have thousands of videos there. I can answer pretty much all the questions being asked there already. The YouTube page is called U.S. Immigration Talk, but if you search JQK Law, it'll work too. You'll see a picture of me on the logo. I think we have 26,000 followers or subscribers on YouTube now. It's pretty good. Got to get to 100,000. So please like and subscribe on that page, and so we could get some more people on and help more people in the immigration process. So I'll get one more question in. If you have one, let me know, and then we'll call it a day. Again, I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. I help people get green cards and citizenship. Someone else asked, with with the new law, if you're a green card holder, is there any problem for traveling to Japan for 10 days? There's no new law that applies to green card holders traveling for 10 days. Now, we have any problems as long as I don't know what your background is, if you're doing shady stuff, or if you got your green card properly, or if there was mistakes. I don't know those details, but generally there's no new law that affects green card holders. Vino says, for evidence, can I submit hotel receipts? Or you answer that question. And Elias, is your office considering a class action for K-1 visa beneficiaries from banned countries? Not my office. There are law firms that are joining to do that, but our office doesn't do lawsuits. So that's it for today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back again next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time, 7 p.m. Eastern, and take your questions live by U.S. Immigration. If you want to contact us, again, the website is jqklaw.com/contact. That's jqklaw.com/contact. I wish you all the best. God bless. Be safe. Bye-bye.